My sister-in-law poisoned my food, which ended up being eaten by her husband. She ended up divorced and in prison. I'm 29 years old and have been married to my husband Harry for the last 7 years. I love everything about our marriage except for the fact that it's connected to his sister, Kyla, who brings so much negativity into our lives. She is incredibly negative, manipulative, and toxic. I've worked hard for years to avoid crossing paths with her because I know what kind of person she is. In the past, my husband had dated my sister-in-law's best friend when he was 17. They broke up later because he felt pressured by Kyla to be with her friend. When he was 23 and single again, his sister insisted he should get back with his ex, but he refused. They had a huge fight, and she ended up crying to their parents about how she wanted him to marry someone she felt comfortable with. But their parents didn't really listen to her. When my husband and I met and fell in love, his parents were very understanding. But Kyla always treated me coldly. Whenever I was around, she would bring up Harry's ex-girlfriends for no reason, telling him how well they were doing and suggesting he should reconnect with them. This went on for a while, and it wasn't just me who found it strange. Harry did too. So he asked her to stop mentioning his exes. But Kyla got angry and started mocking me, saying I was jealous and that I shouldn't be with someone as insecure as me. When his parents invited us over for dinner, Kyla would purposely invite one of Harry's exes, claiming she had run into them by accident that day and had to invite them out of courtesy. She also constantly checked my Instagram, even though she didn't follow me. Since my account is public, I noticed that she was always the first to view my stories. If a guy commented on one of my photos, she would run to her brother and complain about how I was posting inappropriate pictures. Harry and I would laugh at her accusations. When Harry and I decided to move in together, Kyla urged him to break up with me, telling him I had too many flaws as a woman and that she could find someone much better for him. This comment really hurt me because I had always been kind to her. Unfortunately, once Harry and I got engaged, Kyla's behavior towards me got even worse. When we announced our engagement, everyone congratulated us, but I noticed Kyla was upset. She got up from her chair and left our party, to everyone's surprise. Later, she called Harry crying and shouting, complaining that she didn't appreciate being told the news along with everyone else, as she thought he was closest to her and should have been the first to know about his engagement. She then sent me a message that almost felt threatening, saying I should be a good wife to her brother since she had always been the only woman in his life. The message was so strange that it almost embarrassed me. I didn't bother to reply, just left her message on read, which I'm sure only made her angrier. Kyla started to gradually ignore me whenever she saw me, but for some reason, she kept involving herself in all the wedding activities. For example, when I went dress shopping and had my bachelorette party, she took her wedding critiques to a whole new level, openly expressing her displeasure with my choices. Even though both my future mother-in-law and fiancé had pointed out her behavior to her, she didn't stop. One day, while discussing the centerpiece with my future mother-in-law, Kyla overheard and began mocking me, saying my wedding had no class and that's why she wanted her brother to marry someone better. That was the breaking point for me. I lost my composure and shouted at her that I couldn't tolerate her constant mockery and criticism anymore, making it clear she wasn't invited to our wedding. Kyla was shocked, as though she never expected me to stand up to her. Even my mother-in-law was furious with her and supported me. Later, Kyla approached Harry, complaining about how I had embarrassed her and insisting that he needed to control me since I was going to be his wife. Harry firmly told her that he supported my decision, and if she didn't apologize, she wouldn't be invited to the wedding. Reluctantly, she sent a sincere apology, which I saw but again left unread, as I was exhausted with the whole situation and didn't want to get involved in her drama anymore. In the end, Kyla showed up at our wedding because she didn't want to be talked about afterward. The wedding had a pink and pastel theme, which everyone followed without any issues, including the guests. However, my sister-in-law showed up wearing a long black dress that reached the floor, with a veil, as if she was attending a funeral. We were all in shock, to say the least. During the reception, she went around telling people how she was in mourning for losing her brother to another woman. My husband could see how uncomfortable I was with my sister-in-law's wedding attire and confronted her about it. She tried to play the victim, claiming she had every right to dress as she wished and that I was being too controlling. In the end, my mother-in-law and father-in-law asked her to leave after she wouldn't stop causing a scene. It was humiliating for me, and since that day, I've been avoiding her. When I gave birth to my son Nate, I refused to let my sister-in-law near our baby. She tried to argue about it, but my husband and his parents supported me. They understood exactly why I didn't want her around our baby and respected my decision. 2 years ago, my sister-in-law had a miscarriage with her then-boyfriend, Jamie, and it completely devastated her. It was a very sad time for everyone. Harry and I felt bad for her, especially since we already had a child. After her miscarriage, we decided to be more understanding. At first, it seemed like she had changed, but over time, she went back to being the same as before, constantly complaining about how difficult her life was and how things never seemed to work out for her. She blamed ex-boyfriends or ex-friends for ruining her life. Over time, I noticed that in her mind, she was never wrong. She rarely admitted to any mistakes and conflicts and often tried to get people on her side by playing the victim. This year, she decided to get married and invited everyone except us. Harry was surprised to find out that we weren't invited. When we asked her about it, she said she couldn't allow me to come because I might do something to overshadow her wedding. I called her and asked why she would think that when I had never done anything to her. Kyla went on to explain that she had decided to wear all black at our wedding, so now she feared I would do the same, and that's why she didn't want me at hers. I was furious at how manipulative she was, and I told my husband exactly how I felt. Harry spoke with his parents, and they decided to tell my sister-in-law that they wouldn't pay for or attend her wedding. This reduced her to tears, and she started blaming me for causing all the trouble. My husband reminded her that she had openly admitted her own mistake, so she had no right to point fingers at me. But Kyla justified her actions, saying that our wedding had been a long time ago and that I should get over it. Later, when my in-laws still refused to pay for her wedding, she came to apologize to me and beg for my forgiveness. I hate to admit it, but Kyla can be very sweet and persuasive when she wants something. I forgave her and just wanted to put the past behind us. Her wedding to Jamie went well, and we all attended and had a good time. But just a few months later, Kyla was at our door, complaining about how her marriage was falling apart. Harry and I let her stay with us for a few days, where she vented for hours about her husband. She was struggling with getting pregnant, and Kyla was clearly blaming Jamie for everything. I tried to talk to her, but she was determined to blame her husband for everything. When she wasn't complaining about him, she was overly focused on our lives and tried to make up things that weren't even true. For example, I generally go to the gym every morning before work. Sometimes when I'm late, I take my work clothes with me so I can finish my workout, shower, and change. My sister-in-law noticed this after a while and asked me many questions about it, like why I showered or why I even needed to go to the gym. I didn't think much of it and explained that I liked to keep my weight in check and didn't want to go to the office all sweaty. She just pursed her lips and nodded. Eventually, things worked out between Kyla and Jamie, and she moved back in with him. One weekend, my husband and I went to lunch with my in-laws, and my sister-in-law and Jamie also came. We left our son Nate with a babysitter since he usually got bored when we adults talked for hours and preferred staying home to play. During lunch, my mother-in-law told us how one of her friends was currently divorced. She explained how the woman's husband had cheated on her, so she left him and took half of his assets. Suddenly, my sister-in-law interrupted and asked my husband if we had signed a prenuptial agreement before we got married. We all stopped eating and stared at her, and she acted as if I wasn't even there, looking at my husband expectantly. Now, my husband is straightforward, so he simply said that since both of us earn quite well, we didn't see a reason to sign a prenuptial agreement. My sister-in-law scoffed and started saying how there are so many cheaters around nowadays and that he could be deceived at any moment. I was offended by her words and asked her exactly what she was implying. Kyla then began accusing me of definitely being involved with someone else because I always carried a change of clothes with me. She claimed that as Harry's sister, it was her duty to warn him. I was stunned by her words. My father-in-law and mother-in-law immediately came to our defense, telling her to stop making things up and to mind her own business. But Kyla didn't stop. She continued saying that she was just trying to look out for her brother. Then, she made a cruel joke, asking if our son Nate was really Harry's, since he didn't look exactly like him. I swear, I saw my husband's face turn red with anger. I had never seen him so furious in my life. He looked straight into Kyla's eyes and told her that's why she wasn't a mother yet, because she didn't deserve to be, and that her child would be better off in heaven than with someone like her. Kyla's mouth hung open in shock. My in-laws just looked at my husband in silence before turning on Kyla, calling her a shameless person who was trying to ruin everything because she had nothing good in her life. They told her she was just a loser, married to a man who worked hard all day while she did nothing. They went on to say that instead of pointing fingers and asking about prenuptial agreements, she should focus on her own marriage, since clearly She was projecting. Kyla broke down in tears, sobbing, and looked at Jamie, who was sitting next to her, hoping he would support her. But he didn't say a word. I had never seen my husband lose control like that before. Afterward, he stood up to go to the bathroom. My mother-in-law came to calm him down while I rubbed his hand. He apologized for what his sister had said about our son, and I nodded because I understood how hurtful it could be. He was quite pleased to see me defend myself so publicly, especially after putting up with Kyla's behavior for so many years. After things calmed down, he apologized to Jamie but completely ignored Kyla. After that lunch, we cut contact with Kyla. Her behavior wasn't just affecting me. It was hurting my husband too. We simply blocked her on everything so she couldn't reach us. My in-laws spoke with us after the lunch and agreed that Kyla had gone too far this time. They could see how their usually calm son had lost control after Kyla provoked him. A year passed without us talking to her, and everything was going well. 2 months ago, I found out I was pregnant. It was a complete surprise since we weren't even trying to conceive. My husband and I felt incredibly blessed to be welcoming another member to our family. We waited for the right moment to tell everyone and decided to share the news on my husband's birthday. My in-laws wanted to celebrate Harry, so they organized a big party for him in their backyard, and our close family and friends were invited. My sister-in-law must have heard about it from others because she decided to show up. My husband and I were surprised to see her, especially when she came over and hugged Harry, telling him how much she missed him and how sorry she was for their last conversation. My husband took my hand and told his sister that she should be blaming me for the things she had said. Kyla nodded, turned to me and apologized, saying she had been going to therapy in recent months and realized how wrong she had been to humiliate me that way. I didn't believe a word of what she said, but I didn't want to be rude to her in front of everyone, so I simply nodded. My in-laws spoke with us afterward, saying they had no idea Kyla would be there and assuring us that if we didn't feel comfortable, they would ask her to leave, since this was Harry's party. But Harry didn't want to cause a scene, so we agreed to let it go. During the party, I could see Kyla laughing and mingling with everyone, which felt a bit strange. She seemed unusually positive, which wasn't like her at all. But since she had mentioned therapy, I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. When it came time to cut the cake, Harry gave a heartfelt speech about how he considered himself the luckiest man in the world, thankful for another year with a wife like me. His words made me blush with joy, and I couldn't help but appreciate the fact that my husband and I were still deeply in love, just as we were when we first started dating all those years ago. Then, Harry and I decided to share some exciting news with everyone. With smiles on our faces, we announced that we were expecting a baby, and everyone took a moment to process the news before bursting into happiness. My mom started crying and came to hug me, and my in-laws also had tears in their eyes as they congratulated us. Everyone was so happy for us, asking excitedly if we had already thought of names for the baby. The only discordant note was Kyla, who stared at us in disbelief. I thought maybe she just needed time to process it, but then her expression changed, and she simply walked away, looking angry. I was a bit worried, wondering if she was going to ruin another celebration for us, but I got distracted as other people came over to talk to me. When it was time for lunch, I noticed my sister-in-law approaching me with a smile. She had a plate of food in her hands and handed it to me, loudly announcing that she personally wanted to serve me because she was so happy about my pregnancy. As she handed me the plate, she even mentioned how she wanted to make up for all the times she had been rude to me in the past. I nodded and graciously accepted, and then she walked away. I was about to start eating when I fortunately noticed that she had placed shrimp on my plate. It's well known in my family that I'm allergic to shrimp, so I was surprised that my sister-in-law would serve me that. I shook my head in disappointment and got up to find my own food. At that moment, Jaime came over to congratulate me on my pregnancy. We chatted for a bit and he asked why I wasn't eating. I pointed out that my sister-in-law had served me shrimp, probably by mistake. Jaime told me not to worry and took the plate from my hands, saying he loved shrimp and would keep it, while I could get myself a new plate. I smiled, nodded, and walked away. Less than an hour later, Jaime started feeling unwell. Everyone stopped eating, looking at him as he struggled to stand up. Harry and Kaya ran over to him in concern. Jaime pointed at his plate and then at his throat. We were all shocked when we realized something was seriously wrong with what he had eaten. Kyla ran over to check his plate, her eyes wide. She turned to look at me and asked if I had given my plate to her husband. In the middle of the chaos, someone called an ambulance, and they quickly took him to the hospital. Kyla was crying uncontrollably throughout all of this, and she kept glaring at me with anger. Later, we were told that Yaimi had been poisoned. I nearly passed out when I heard this because, unlike everyone else, I knew the plate had originally been mine. Any poison Yaimi might have ingested could have poisoned me and my baby. Harry, my in-laws, and my parents still have no idea about this. The police were called to take the food Yaimi ate as evidence since no one knew what had been in the food that caused his condition. As I write this, Yaimi is still recovering in the hospital, and Kyla stayed with him overnight. My husband and I have been fielding calls from relatives asking what happened to Yaimi and who could have poisoned him. My in-laws are shocked by what occurred and are staying at our house because they're afraid to go back to theirs. No one can understand how everything went so wrong when everything had been going so well. I'm scared to tell everyone the plate originally belonged to me, and since Kyla came and served it to me, I might have to tell the police the truth if this turns into an investigation. I feel extremely guilty about what happened, but most importantly, I'm now very worried about what my sister-in-law might do to me, since it's clear she has no boundaries. I don't want to be near her, and I can't let my children be near her either. Update 1. Wow. Thank you for the thousands of comments on this post. I never imagined I'd receive so many responses in just a few hours. My hands were shaking when I wrote this before, and I haven't been able to sleep. Despite what everyone keeps saying, I feel a certain responsibility for what happened to my brother-in-law. I should have thrown the plate away, but I don't know why I let him take it from me. I keep crying, thinking about what would have happened if something worse had happened to him. My husband knows something's wrong, and he's been staying close to me. He thinks I'm just upset, but he has no idea what's going on with his sister. I agree with the comments suggesting I need to sit down and talk to everyone calmly. I don't know if they'll believe me, but my in-laws have security cameras all around their house, and since the party was in their backyard, I'm sure they can check the footage to see that Kyla was the one who gave me that plate. I will talk to everyone tonight and update later. Update 2. So, we talked, and I'm so grateful to have the best in-laws in the world. Since they're still staying with us, I sat down with them and Harry during dinner to tell them I had something important to share. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the situation on my shoulders, and with everyone gathered, I recounted the events of the birthday party, explaining how my sister-in-law served me a plate with shrimp and how Yaimi ate it without realizing what it was, resulting in his poisoning. As I spoke, I could see their faces. My in-laws exchanged worried looks, and Harry's expression shifted from confusion to anger. I continued to express my fear about my sister-in-law's motives and her previous attempts to harm me. I admitted my hesitation in sharing this information, afraid of the possible consequences for me and our unborn child. My mother-in-law, being the pragmatic woman she is, immediately suggested we review the security footage. My father-in-law agreed, recognizing the seriousness of the situation. Harry, visibly upset, stayed silent, processing everything that was unfolding. After reviewing the security footage, the truth was undeniable. The footage showed my sister-in-law offering me the poisoned plate, followed by the events that led to Yaimi's discomfort. The weight of the evidence left no room for doubt. Harry, now fully aware of his sister's intentions, struggled to contain his anger. My in-laws were horrified by their daughter's actions, shocked by the lengths she had gone to create chaos. We were all left in stunned silence, trying to understand why she would do something like this. In light of this revelation, my in-laws decided to turn over the evidence to the police, as this was a very serious matter. My father-in-law and husband would meet with Yaimi once he recovered, as he was the one who needed to press charges against my sister-in-law. I have no idea how Yaimi will react, and I want to cry every time I think about how I allowed him to eat from my poison plate. I can't sleep or eat properly because I'm so worried about him. I'll update when something significant happens. Update 3. Hello everyone. I'm finally back with an update. I know it's been almost a month since my last update, but as a pregnant woman, I've been going through a lot right now. First things first, my in-laws turned over the footage to the police, and after seeing the evidence, Kyla was arrested. She didn't even deny the charges, immediately breaking down and admitting everything. My husband spoke with Yaimi about what had happened, and he was as shocked as the rest of us. My husband urged him to press charges against his sister, saying that what she did was so sinister, and assured him that no matter what, he would always be part of our family. In the end, after Yaimi recovered, not only did he decide to press charges, but he also filed for divorce. Kyla called my in-laws, crying and begging them to forgive her. Turns out she's pregnant. She begged them to get her out of jail, trying to manipulate them by claiming they should do this for the sake of her unborn child. My father-in-law firmly told her they were done indulging her and that she needed to learn to take responsibility for her actions. My mother-in-law is extremely sad about what's happening to her daughter but understands that what Kyla did cannot be simply forgiven. The police found evidence that she had tampered with the food with the intention of hurting me, which ended up hurting her husband instead. She has been charged with multiple offenses related to food tampering, endangering life, and causing harm. She has been pleading with Yaimi not to accuse her, saying that it was all my fault. But fortunately, Yaimi doesn't care and is determined to punish her. Her court hearing will begin soon. I don't think she'll be able to escape this time. Meanwhile, for those asking, my baby and I are doing fine. My husband and I have talked and planned to sit down with our son to tell him the truth, as we want him to be aware of these situations. I know it will be a difficult conversation, but it's an important one. Also, I'm going for regular ultrasounds every 2 weeks as recommended by my doctor. We don't plan to find out the baby's gender since we want it to be a surprise. My parents know what happened with Kyla, and they've become very protective of me. They're concerned that this might affect my mental health during the pregnancy, so they've been encouraging me to go to therapy. I agree with them, as even though I'm acting normal, I've developed a deep fear after what Kyla did to my food. I'm afraid of eating anything that I haven't prepared myself. My husband understands my fear and is there for me every step of the way. I hope to overcome this irrational fear soon. Update 4. It's been 8 months since my last update. Kyla is currently serving her prison sentence. She was found guilty of the charges. I never attended her court proceedings, but sometimes my in-laws did, and they would tell me how Kyla admitted in court that she had been jealous of me for years. She never wanted a stranger to marry her brother. She always dreamed of one of her best friends marrying my husband. So, when he started dating me, she would always try to intimidate me. When we announced my pregnancy at my husband's birthday party, she became very jealous, as she was about to announce her own pregnancy. She had suffered a miscarriage earlier, so she wanted to share her good news, but thought we were stealing her moment. According to her, because of her pregnancy hormones, she got so angry that she mixed a small amount of rat poison into my food. She admitted that she only wanted me to end up in the hospital but never intended to physically harm me or the baby. Of course, the judge didn't believe her pleas, and she was sentenced to prison. She'll be out of our lives for a long time. Yaimi has successfully divorced her, so he's finally free. We've seen him over the months, and we still include him in family activities whenever we can. He and I have talked, and I've apologized profusely for giving him my plate. He assured me that it was never my fault. I started crying when I heard that because I had been repeating to myself over and over how I wished I'd done things differently so that he never got poisoned. I'm glad Yaimi is okay now. As for me and Harry, we've welcomed a baby girl into our family. Despite the lingering shadows of the past, our daughter's presence has brought warmth and light into our lives. Our son Nate is excited to become an older brother and has been showering his little sister with affection and love. Seeing our children together fills our hearts with gratitude. Throughout all of this, my parents and in-laws have been there for us, helping us navigate this new chapter in our lives. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the situation on my shoulders, and with everyone gathered, I recounted the events of the birthday party, explaining how my sister-in-law served me a plate with shrimp and how Yaimi ate it without realizing what it was, resulting in his poisoning. As I spoke, I could see their faces. My in-laws exchanged worried looks, and Harry's expression shifted from confusion to anger. I continued to express my fear about my sister-in-law's motives and her previous attempts to harm me. I admitted my hesitation in sharing this information, afraid of the possible consequences for me and our unborn child. My mother-in-law, being the pragmatic woman she is, immediately suggested we review the security footage. My father-in-law agreed, recognizing the seriousness of the situation. Harry, visibly upset, stayed silent, processing everything that was unfolding. After reviewing the security footage, the truth was undeniable. The footage showed my sister-in-law offering me the poison plate, followed by the events that led to Yaimi's discomfort. The weight of the evidence left no room for doubt. Harry, now fully aware of his sister's intentions, struggled to contain his anger. My in-laws were horrified by their daughter's actions, shocked by the lengths she had gone to create chaos. We were all left in stunned silence, trying to understand why she would do something like this. In light of this revelation, my in-laws decided to turn over the evidence to the police, as this was a very serious matter. My father-in-law and husband would meet with Yaimi once he recovered, as he was the one who needed to press charges against my sister-in-law. I have no idea how Yaimi will react, and I want to cry every time I think about how I allowed him to eat from my poison plate. I can't sleep or eat properly because I'm so worried about him. I'll update when something significant happens.